Be confident. Stick to your guns. What you've created and the mission that you've created is something that's going to take you all the way through. If you move off of it for too long or you go too far this way or that way, it's harder to come back.
Building a mission-driven brand is one thing. Scaling that brand in today's competitive market, that's a whole entirely different challenge. Many founders wonder, how do you grow without compromising your brand values? How do you choose the right retail partners to expand your reach? And finally, how do you fund said growth without compromising your values and what's important to you? In today's episode of the Scaling Emerging Beauty Podcast, I'm sitting down with Erica Cocilova, Chief Executive Officer at Ethique Beauty, a beauty brand that has been championing sustainability and clean formulations long before it was trending. Erica brings a powerhouse perspective from her experience leading marketing at brands like Happy Baby, Briogeo, and now at Ethique, where she is evolving this 12-year-old brand to fit in and be ripe for the picking for everyday consumers. This is a fantastic conversation for brands that are just getting started and also those that are in the market. We know that rebranding is something that doesn't just apply to new brands, but many brands that already have established market fits like to go through rebrands just to keep things fresh. As always, I hope that this episode is really helpful, so let's go ahead and get into it. As of the published date of this episode, I am an associate of Ulta Beauty. The ideas and thoughts represented here are my own and not that of my employer. So I am so excited to be sitting here and talking with you today. The sustainability topic for brands, for retailers, many businesses, even outside of CPG and retail, is top of mind. And so I'm excited to sit down with you because this is something that is clearly a core value for your brand. So I'd love for you to just start off, Erica, and tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into beauty and CPG and the brand we're talking about today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Monique. So grateful to be here. I love talking about this brand. You're going to see my hands go up and get excited. You're going to see me emote. I'm actually standing up because it's just too exciting for me to sit down.
I love it. I thought you were standing. That's awesome.
I'm excited. I love it. So Ethique Beauty, we'll talk a little bit about that, a little about me. I'm going to go quick. I've been in CPG my entire career. I've actually been in a few categories. I started my career in direct to consumer, but then I moved pretty quickly into CPG and in the beauty personal care space. So I got a ton of valuable experience at Unilever on the Dove brand, both on product development, global brand launches, and then also down an incredible brand. And it taught me so much about how to be incredibly consistent about a brand and to say the same things and deliver the same things from a product perspective because you gain so much trust. It was always such a joke, right? Because we would look at that triangle, you know, it's like awareness, consideration, trial. And the Dove one was always just a square. Just everybody knew and loved it. And it was amazing to be a part of something that was so well known, but also just so consistent on what it delivered. So personal care, I started personal care, that was body wash and soap. And then I actually moved into organic baby food. And so from there, I moved into organic baby food. And why I made that switch was I actually loved being a part of a smaller brand. Organic baby food at the time that I got there, it was growing quickly, but it wasn't the mainstay. And so there was so much that I learned about how to make something that maybe somebody thinks is like a little bit too crunchy, or maybe like, do we really need something this clean, and really make it ultra desirable to people. Right?
Yeah, it's so different to be on a big global brand like Dove that everyone knows and recognizes, and then to move to one of the more niche brands that's like, okay, we got to do some more convincing. We have to prove our value proposition and our reason for being. Just to say, like, the bigger conglomerates do sometimes have brands in their portfolio where that is a real challenge for them.
Absolutely. And so interestingly enough, when I got into Happy Baby, they had already been acquired by Danone. So while they were acquired by Danone and had the financial backing of Danone, they still operated as this independent, really fast-growing, aspirational brand. So honestly, a lot of the times they were coming to us with like, what are you doing? How are you doing that differently? How are you breaking the mold? So being the head of marketing and e-commerce for this brand was so fun and so interesting because I took all the things that I knew and loved about a big company and a big brand, and I was able to do it a lot faster. I was able to do it quickly. I was able to find ways to be interesting. And we grew that brand. We launched things that consumers wanted and needed and made organic accessible, right? Whereas it felt like, oh my gosh, should I pay for organic? We made it clear what the proposition was. We made it clear why organic was the right choice. And then we made it fun and interesting for adults to buy this for their kids because they felt so good about not just it being clean, so the absence of negative, but the addition of positive and the things that we put in the product that made it actually much more efficacious, much more nutritious than a base formula.
I love that. That's so good. And so then how did you end up landing where you are today?
Okay, so from there, I had the very unique privilege, and I say that with so much love, privilege to be the CMO of Briogeo Hair Care. And so I was the CMO of Briogeo Hair Care before this position. And it was really like the most incredible timing, the most incredible opportunity that happened through someone talking to somebody and me being connected to different people. And I fell in love with the Briogeo brand immediately because it was the epitome of all the things I knew and loved and the challenge that we needed to do at that point in time. It was 2020, January 2020. That challenge, what Nancy had created was so powerful because it showed that you could do things that marry up clean, sustainable, and efficacious all together, that you don't have to compromise. Yeah. And it was such an incredible thing to be a part of. We did so many amazing things because we were able to say like, hey, listen, you can feel really good about this from a sustainability perspective, from a clean perspective, but before you even get excited about that, look at how amazing this product works, right?
It really works. Like you're going to get the results, which like, especially in beauty, that is the game changer. Exactly. Like you can almost see it immediately. I think that's different from food because even with food, sometimes you switch your diet or switch to taking something and you can feel it immediately. But other times that change takes time. But with beauty, I feel like sometimes you can see that almost immediately. Like you touch it and you're like, my hair feels amazing. Exactly. My skin is clear. Like my skin is glowing.
It's literally why I love beauty.
Yes.
So as my career has gone more into the beauty realm, the reason I love it so much is that one, consumers are willing to try, right? They're willing to say, you know what? This seems fun. This seems interesting. This seems like it could work for me. But the products that you use in your skin or on your face, or especially on your hair, if they're great products, you're like, I'm sold. This is something I feel so good about and I want to continue to use. And that type of behavior allows for behavior change, right? Because it's an entryway into something that might be more sustainable and might be more clean that you might have otherwise in your everyday life not have considered. But because it works so well, you're like, oh, and I feel great about all these other things that I am contributing to, both for people and planet. So it's such a powerful category. I'm grateful to be in it.
That's such an interesting point. Something that I've heard is many beauty consumers are very curious. And so to your point, willing to try new things. It's like, okay, I have a blush that looks great, but this one just feels really cool when I think about like jelly blushes and how the texture of it just makes it very cool to try, or some of these soft cushion foundations that are trending at the moment. Like you almost are like, okay, I know I have a foundation that provides good coverage, but there's something about the fun, the joy of trying something new that's like, maybe it'll be better. Maybe it'll be fun. So I love that.
Like there's a reason why scalp is starting to take off so much, right? Is that at some point people are open to scrubs on their head, right? That wasn't something a few years ago that anybody was even thinking about, right? Open to new formats, open to new ingredient profiles, right? And that's such a magical opportunity to build sustainability into someone's everyday life.
Yeah, that is such an important part of this conversation too, because many brands struggle with balancing sustainability and commercial success. And it's one of those things where I think on a smaller scale, it is, I want to say almost, not that it's easy, okay, but easier relatively, than scaling in a sustainable way. And so I know Ethique recently went through a rebrand.
We did.
And I know that sustainability is still at the forefront of the brand. So I'd love for you to just talk about how you leverage sustainability as a core value for the brand. What strategies have you tried to make that something that you still hold true to, even while going through a rebrand, which for those of you listening is a lot of work. You still got to work through your old packaging, and it's lots of sleepless nights, I would imagine.
It is. I have an incredible team. I have the most incredible team that did so much amazing work on this rebrand. I could not be happier with where it landed. And I think it's really singing, right? It's singing in the ways that we want to. So let's talk really quickly about the history of this brand a little, just for 1 second, because it's really relevant to the question. So this brand is actually 12 years old. So why that's so interesting, Ethique started 12 years ago in New Zealand. We have a consumer base, a cult following in New Zealand, and when I got here 2 years ago, in Australia, in the UK, in the US, in Canada, we had spread across a lot of regions. And what was really, really eye-opening to me is when I first went to New Zealand to go meet the team over there, I would go into a pharmacy. Our packaging was, we literally had like a 4-foot section because we started in New Zealand. We've been around for a long time. Hundreds of SKUs on a 4-foot section at these smaller pharmacies. And at the very top, and I remember this so clearly, we had this beautiful dedicated space with all of these products in different categories in hair care, but also in skincare, body care, pet, kitchen, everything you can think of. And along the top of this beautiful shelf was literally just a sea of seals. So you know when you see like a seal on something that's like vegan and cruelty-free and this and that, and it was just a sea of them. And immediately what I said is, how does anyone know what they're buying? Like, I'm actually having trouble, I'm having trouble navigating the shelf. And if the only message is all of these beautiful things that we do, but it's like a million things, how do we know what the consumer is actually excited about? How do we know that we are showing them what's for them? How do we know that consumers are really taking away the crazy efficacious benefits of buying this over any other solid or liquid, right? And we weren't doing that. We were talking about all the amazing things we do, and we continue to do all these amazing things, but it was so many things, and it was the only message.
And that's hard to digest because it's like, when you do all the things, it's like, so what did they do? It's like, wait, I can't really recall because it's so many things.
Exactly. And so when I was introduced to this brand, this was one of those introduction moments of me being at the shelf, I said to myself, like, I know this is great product. I come from a brand with incredible hair products. I tried this product on my head and it's amazing. It's so good. But why? It has 50,000 5-star reviews. But why? Because we weren't talking about it. We were relying on the fact that we had gotten somebody or a set of very sustainable consumers to come in and try it. And then once they tried it, they loved it because it was good for them. Because they put it on their head. They had figured out that you just got to put it on your head and you just rub it and it does the same thing as a liquid shampoo, but it has all these other benefits. So when we did the rebrand, when we were thinking about the rebrand, the first thing we had to do was just talk to our consumers. What is it about our brand that you love? What is it from a sustainability perspective, a product perspective that makes you so passionate about our brand and keep coming back? So we had to prioritize and rank those things. Some things that we were doing simply weren't important to our consumers anymore. Some things that we wanted to be known for, we weren't actually talking about. And so when we did this consumer research and created this baseline, we thought about all the ways that we could, with this rebrand, be much more consumer focused, be much clearer about what the product is, what's inside of it, how to use it, things that were barriers, right, to this overarching product category. And then we found ways to even either maintain the things that we knew we never wanted to walk away from. We will never be in plastic. We will never have product that's not recyclable and home compostable. But in places where we could, we actually upped the ante and said, we want to do things like, this is a sneak peek. Do our deodorants, which are so good, need to be in a box? People don't know what they are, right? And so looking at all of those things together, we were able to really make the smart choices on what to keep from a sustainability perspective. But to be very honest with you, it's something much larger than this. You talk about like the sustainable and the commercial choices. why I fell in love with this brand and why I had to be a part of this like unpolished diamond when I heard about it is that for the Ethique Beauty brand, it's one and the same. It's actually really difficult if you think about purchasing a product because you love it and then falling in love with the brand and the mission is sort of the secondary piece, or like being involved in the brand and the mission is a secondary piece. For us, what is so different and unique is that this product, by nature of the format itself, just the format, the fact that it is in this solid format actually means that it has 10 to 30 times more active ingredients than a liquid shampoo or conditioner. So while it happens to be the more sustainable option because it's solid, no water, comes in a box that you can recycle or home compost, so no plastics or microplastics, that just happens to be the thing that is true about it after the fact that it's super efficacious, right? This is so concentrated that it lasts 3 bottles of shampoo. This is conditioner so concentrated it lasts 8 bottles of conditioner. So when you buy this set together, you're immediately contributing to the planet. You're saving 8 bottles from manufacturer or landfill. You're contributing 2% of sales to charity. You're pulling 1 pound of ocean-bound plastic out of the ocean. There's so many things that are connected to the fact that this happens to be, by nature, a format just way better for you, and then you can feel good about your purchase on the back end.
That's you talked about so many good things there, Erica. And I think one of the things that I will pull out is the fact that Ethique, and I did say it wrong earlier, so correct me if it's like saying a name,
Ethical. So it's technically
so
ethical
cute.
beauty. Ethique Beauty is ethical beauty.
Ethique. I like it. Okay. Now I can really put some emphasis on it. So you talked about how Ethique has been around for 12 years. Mm-hmm. And I talked to so many founders who really have at this point had their brand for 8 years, for, 5 or 6 years. And at the time, maybe when they were creating their brand, there were a certain set of maybe opportunities or white space or things that they were looking for. Yeah. But now that you fast forward, it's like, hold on, is that still true? And for the brands that are there, I would say for the long term, you might need to reposition, 100%. Right? Which is what Ethique did. But that core value of what's important to you, especially when you are value-based, when you're mission-based, that is still going to come through. It's just about repositioning. I always say, like, tell a story. 3 different people could tell you the same story 3 different ways, right?
Absolutely. And if you maintain your mission and who you are as a brand and what you stand for, and that's the center, finding the right story around it for the right group of people that ultimately will drive that mission. I mean, here's the deal. We love our consumers. I spend actually a lot of time in Gorgeous looking at consumer emails. I spend a lot of time in my social media feeds understanding the tenor. We love our core consumer. What we know, though, is that to actually achieve our mission, we've already saved 41 million plastic bottles from manufacturer and landfill, but to actually continue to grow and to achieve the mission, which we're here for in the first place, we have to appeal to more consumers. We got to get more people on the journey with us. And so if we stay doing the same thing forever, we don't actually get to achieve the thing that we want, which is the mission in the first place.
That's a good point. And it's a really good segue into my next question, which is making sure that you're still matching up the brand with the right partners, yes. Right? So if that's the right retail partners, you talked about making sure that you're reaching more consumers so that you can, again, just build on this mission. So how did you all say, this is how we're going to look at retail partners, or this is how we're going to look at our expansion and growth, and do it in a way that still aligns with our core values?
It's such a great question. We are so lucky, so lucky, because while we were doing this rebrand, and there's, we could talk about this in a little bit, one of the things that we had to do was make the conscious decision of where not to be. And it was a really, 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 really hard set of decisions. And so there were geographies that we exited after being there for a long time with consumers who were really upset about that, because we wanted to stay in our home country of New Zealand. It's something that is core to who we are. We're still manufactured completely in New Zealand, the home of, sustainability and cleanliness. And we just feel so, so, so proud to have that as part of our ethos. And then we had to focus on a much larger beauty market. And the US is where we wanted to focus. New Zealand and the US, which meant that our consumers in the UK and Australia, unfortunately, and hopefully not forever, we had to disappoint them for a bit. But when it comes to retail partners in the US, I can't tell you how grateful I am that we have had a chance to launch in Ulta. And Ulta was the right choice for us completely for two main reasons. One is first of all, I had the opportunity at Briogeo to launch in Ulta. And so it was really, really beautiful to be able to take that experience that I've had in my past and know how to apply it and what it takes to succeed in Ulta. That was also, I think, a really important point because it's sometimes if you don't know, you don't know, and it's a high touch environment. But Ulta focuses on two things incredibly well. Hair, huge category for Ulta. And we decided that hair was absolutely our true category. We have a few other small categories that we kept, but hair is our basis, our core. And Ulta's double down commitment on conscious beauty. We know that Ulta attracts a consumer that is open to this type of product, something different, but they're still a beauty consumer. There's still someone that's looking for beauty that works. And when we did the rebrand, one of the things that we doubled down on that I didn't mention before is we knew this product worked. We know we have something for everyone. So we have something along every single hair type, texture need because of actually the way that we make it and manufacture it. But we put these through clinical testing. And this is something that I know from my past is so, so important. You can shout, this is good, this is good, this is good. We put it in third-party clinical testing to make sure that when we were on the shelves in Ulta or online at Ulta.com, that when someone was unsure about what this product was or what it was going to do for them, that we had all the right accoutrement, right? All the beautiful images, the BNAs, all of that stuff. But we also have the stat that this pair reduces breakage by 5 times after just one use. So all you need to do is try it once. Just try it once and you're going to be successful. And the Ulta team has been so amazing at leaning in on this product and saying, listen, we got to find different ways to get it in front of people. This is something that we all feel passionate about. A lot of them have tried the product and fell in love with it. And so knowing that Ulta, again, doubles down on hair, doubles down on conscious beauty, attracts the consumer that we were looking for to grow and expand our mission, and also having the team, frankly, and the resources to be able to do things right at Ulta, because you can't just get on a shelf and stick there. You got to actually continue to work, find the right things to do, invest in the right places, feedback, have a core, really solid relationship with your merchant. And so I think it's a roundabout way of saying, say no to the things that are not something that you can do or might not do right now, right? Say yes, and say yes big to the things that you want to be big hits. And don't walk away until you feel like you've gotten the penetration and the awareness and the trial in that space before you go and try to figure out how to expand outside of it.
That's really good advice because there's so many things that you have to get right in retail. Like there's the whole operation side of things, and then there's the consumer, and then there's the retailer piece, and then there's still thinking forward about the future and innovation. And so figuring out what to focus on is so important. And I love that you also emphasize just the alignment for Ethique and, retailer of choice, which was Ulta Beauty in this case, to say, hey, this is a great launch partner for us. I'd love for you to also just share if there are any common mistakes or anything either while you were at Briogeo or even while you were at Ethique where you said, this is something that I've either seen or this is something that we're going to avoid. You mentioned saying no, which I think is really important. It sounds like it's an intentional no, like, hey, I'm going to think about it and I'm going to come back and say no. So would love to kind of hear what some of those other things might be.
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest things I've seen, the magic, I've worked with and for several founders in my career, and they're magical, superpower humans. They are. They have the creativity and they know what they want to create and they're so passionate. And also too, they're creative people, right? So often what I see at small businesses that are, are founder backed is that you've created something that's so wonderful. And then there's all these other things that you can do, other categories, other products, and and they're going to be awesome. It's not the point. It's not a no. It's a not yet, right? And so some of the things that I've seen other brands do and some of the things that we've had to do here at Ethique Beauty that have been painful is say, like, what are we going to talk about all the time? That if somebody is interacting with our social, if someone's coming to shelf for Ethique, if somebody is on our website, what do they see first? And what do we continually put in front of them first? Because if you try to talk about too many categories or too many products, or you expand into those categories too fast, you've not done a good job of training the consumer that you got to come here first, trust us on this, and then you can go on to the next thing, right? Maintain the core. And we all, even, I'm a marketer at heart, right? You hear like, oh, we've said this thing now 10 million times. You've said this claim 10 million times. But consumers are interacting with our brand every day at different times in different spaces. There's some stat about 7 to 10 times that someone needs to hear something for it to sink in. And so making sure that the entire team is on the same page about, we're going to double down on this. We're going to stay the course. We're going to make sure that we are as consistent as possible. We're going to win the heck out of this before we move into other categories, other territories, other geographies, other retailers. And so I think it's hard though, because you're getting pressure from everywhere to innovate, and saying not yet is something that's so important to a leader of a brand.
That's so critical too. And you mentioned earlier that all of those things, you got to what those core things were because you listened to the consumer. You asked yourself, what's core to who we are? Where does it almost have the backing at every level? Like the consumer has that backing. We have the backing in the product efficacy. We have the backing in all of those different areas. And that's what you double down on. That sounds like you're like Dove marketing, kind of coming in to be like, what is the thing we're going to be known for?
Exactly. And the thing is that if you say not yet to a retailer, that doesn't mean the end of your relationship. You can find ways to continue to feed them information about your brand, find ways to create case studies to keep them excited. But you need to have the right team, the right money, the right consumer base to keep expanding. Now, a lot of the times that's really hard, right? Because you think, okay, if I can get on shelf, the awareness and the distribution is going to help drive sales. And of course that's true, but we all know there's just so much more that goes into it. And so winning and being so firm on that recipe for what wins before you get too far out.
That's really good. Do you feel like, I'm curious and pivoting a bit here. So for those emerging brands that are out there that maybe don't have established branding in other places, whether it's, in other countries or even here in the US, how do they figure out what that thing is? Especially as you're still building and you're still growing, like how can you, at that point, it's like, it sounds like Ethique kind of knew, like you knew what it was because the sales showed you, the consumers voted with their dollars, but how can an emerging brand that's still building figure out what the thing is?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And the truth is that you have to have someone who is on the creative side doing things and putting things in front of people. But the metrics tell you a lot, right? You can learn a lot from a simple launch on D2C, a simple social media, organic, some boosting, interacting with consumers, doing your own tests out in the field, right? Like, you're just asking people, talking to people. There's metrics built right into that, right? And sometimes that's going to take a longer time than others. But I think that you got to hit the ground, right? You got to start somewhere. Learn from every piece of information that you could possibly have, or you could put very little money into Google AdWords to see what people, if people are clicking on things that you're bidding on in terms of search keywords. You can try a social strategy on TikTok and on Instagram, see the different metrics that pop and things that people like and are interested in. It doesn't need to be this full-scale launch to begin with. Think of it as, and I tell my team this all the time, think of it as like a ready, fire, aim approach. You think you're ready, you fire, and then as you're firing, you figure out all of the insights from all the different places, but you got to keep bringing them together consistently with the right people in the room to talk about which thing was working for what reason, and then it's baby steps from there.
That's really good. That's really good. I love that. So as I think about building a brand, a big piece of that is finances.
Yeah.
And I think about sustainability in finances, and I'm like, those things could seem like they could potentially be in conflict, right? Just because I know a lot of times, depending on who you talk to, it's like, oh, when it comes down to like money, there's sometimes questions of like, ooh, is this right? Are we taking money from the right people? Really? So I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about how you all approach financing, given sustainability is at the core. I know for many people, many folks are talking more about, things like conscious capitalism and things like that. So it feels like it's very relevant. So how did you approach this? Would love to give founders ideas of how they can look at both things and still feel good about it.
Absolutely. So listen, at the end of the day, most brands, not all brands, not all, congratulations to those that are not in this camp, need a big capital, right? Because they can get to a certain level, but then you need to pay for inventory, or you need to pay for marketing, or you need to pay for people that can get you to the next level. And so there's this I hear you. I hear the tension about okay, people think well, if I fundraise and I take it from the wrong people, is it going to compromise my mission? Is it going to compromise the thing that makes us who we are? But at the end of the day, there are so many investors out there, especially right now, that are investing in brands because of their mission, because they stand for something. Right. And so it's really all about the process, right? So when you're thinking about getting capital and getting an investor of any level, you can go multiple ways, right? You can raise friends and family, and those are probably people that are already very much invested in your mission and therefore are not questioning you as much. You could go the VC route. You could go a PE route. There's a lot of different avenues, but it's all about the relationship that you have. Asking the questions, finding a partner whose thesis aligns with your mission, right? Because investment thesis will tell you a lot. What else? What other brands are in their portfolio? Are they doing similar things? Are they prioritizing similar things? We are insanely lucky because at Ethique, we have a financial sponsor called Bonks who their entire investment thesis is about investing in brands that are better for people and planet. They have a full-time sustainability person on their team. They actually look at all of their brands against measurements called the 5 goods. And so when they're looking at investments, they want to make sure that the brand that they are investing in measures up against these things. And we constantly get rescored against them because they are excited about when our 5 goods score against, environmental governance, waste management, social good. They're excited that during the course of their investment, if that's gone up, that's something that they go to their investment committee and shout about. So for us, because we aligned with a financial sponsor who we don't have to explain ourselves. We don't have to explain that the sustainable choice that's, obviously hopefully matched up with a really good commercial choice is the right choice for us because ultimately it's building our brand. And so there are investors out there that'll do that. There's absolutely a plethora of them, but it's about asking the right questions. Sometimes the most money is not the right money. Sometimes a smaller amount of money with the right partner is the right thing to do. And just making sure that you are really aligned with the barriers and the involvement that this financial sponsor will want to have to make sure that your voice is heard, but also that you can hear that voice too, because what they're there to do is help grow your business. They want your business to grow as much as you do.
Yeah, that financial partner hopefully isn't just there to write a check, right? Hopefully they also bring additional things to the table, whether it's, networking, strategic ideas, but something of value in addition to the money.
Exactly.
Right?
And a lot of groups are doing this, right? Are creating this operating partner type of environment, or they have people, again, knowing what people will be allocated to your board if you're taking capital from them. What experience do they have? Figuring out what's complementary to the experience that you have and finding that right fit is so crucial.
Something else that you said when you were talking about financing, you said, oftentimes there is a certain level that brands reach where you need additional finances to invest in the people to get you to where you need to go. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about those people, having been at a variety of small brands. Who do you think are like those experts that it's like, it's worth it for you to pay for that expertise? If you want to talk a little bit about time and place for that, it might depend, but I love kind of hearing from founders or those who have been on founding teams, like who are those core people that you need on your team?
Absolutely. So I think the first and foremost, there's really two, and I think about this, within my own realm. Having a very solid, capable, experienced finance partner. So call them a CFO, call them a head of finance, whatever that might be, critical. And that investment will you need somebody whose eye is on the ball at all times, not just on your P&L, but on your cash flow, and understanding the different things that are happening to make sure that you can keep operating your brand and doing all the fun, nice things. And sometimes you think, okay, finance partner, like, they're going to stop me from doing all the fun stuff I want to do. But actually, that's not the experience I've had. I've actually had a significant amount of finance partners in my history, and I do today, that enable the growth. That I say, okay, I'm thinking about doing this. My team's thinking about doing this. This feels like an investment. It's like, how does the gross margin look against us? Do we feel like we could take a hit on that because ultimately it's going to get us to more sales later? Is there a margin volume trade-off here that we could think about? How do we think about, if we had to if we had to get more inventory built ahead of time, how do we think about our net working capital in that way? So having that enabler, right? That's the enabler person. Someone who's seen finance at medium to big companies, but want to be in this small entrepreneurial, fast-moving environment and understand your business and understand your thesis and mission, because then they know, like, yeah, maybe this is like a little bit on the edge of something that I'd be like thrilled about, but I know it's going to drive more things for us on the brand side. And then that brings us to the commercial partner. Listen, most, small businesses, most very entrepreneurial spaces have someone at the helm that can go out and sell the business. They have the business developer, they have the founder, they have somebody who knows the product in and out, that knows the brand in and out, you could drop them in front of anybody and they're going to buy that product because they are convinced. But what you sometimes don't have is that person on the back end, that commercial person on the back end that knows how to set up processes, that knows how to set up a marketing framework so that people can understand exactly what you're saying across all the different touch points. And finding those two people pretty early on, the finance and what I call the brand and marketing operator who's seen and done it, those two people are going to be crucial as the first step, because then you can start to build sustainably. You're not off hiring someone that you don't need because you don't have the money for it, or this person's not we don't need that right now. I can do that, and this person can do that. But what I've seen happen a lot of times is that because of budgetary constraints, and we all have them, right? Everyone's looking at their bottom line. Brands will invest in a ton of more junior people with less experience, and no one knows really what to do. Everyone's sort of looking at the founder or looking at the CEO and saying, I think this is the right thing to do.
I'm waiting for you to give me a task, because my job is not to do strategy. My job is to execute.
Exactly.
And so then you end up doing even more. And it's
even more. And you need those people to be able to say, listen, here, you got it. Yes, great idea. We're going to go chase that. But know how to pay for it and know how to execute it so that you as the sole person there does not need to be ripped into 100 pieces.
That's really good. That's really good. I love that. Well, look, I've so enjoyed our conversation. I feel like there's so many great nuggets, and I'm sure a lot of that is the compilation of your experiences. So I want to say thank you for your time. And before we close, I do always love to ask if you could give, one piece of advice to emerging brands, founders that are looking to scale. Yep. What would it be? It can be related to the topic we talked about today or something totally different. Just what advice would you give?
I would say there's so many pieces of advice. I mean, first of all, there's one that's qualitative, which is to say, be confident, stick to your guns. What you've created and the mission that you've created is something that's going to take you all the way through. If you move off of it for too long, or you go too far this way or that way, it's harder to come back. So be confident, stay the course. The yeses and the nos matter. And the second thing that's super tactical super tactical, but so relevant to emerging brands, especially in beauty, is find a way to create budget and to create products that you can sample. So having a really, really strong sampling strategy. So not having something that's so expensive that you can only sample 5 of, not having something that's, you get it and it like doesn't look or feel or actually perform like the big mama product, and then actually holding that sampling budget steady for as long as possible.
That is so good. I'm just thinking about conversations that I've had recently where I'm talking to emerging brands and it's like, we don't have budget for sampling. And I'm like, I know, but man, building that into your budget up front, what that does for you, or to your point, finding that strategic finance partner so that you can say, how can I fit this into my budget?
Absolutely.
I need this. And the reason is trial. I've not heard that spoken on the podcast, but let me tell you from my experience in talking to brands and also working at various retailers, that trial is so critical, especially if you're talking more premium or prestige price points. Like, you can almost give things away when you have a sample funnel. Exactly. And then if your product is as good as you say it is, they're going to come back.
Exactly. We know our conversion rate on trial to purchase is so high. But if we were only sampling in this size, it would be so expensive. And frankly, it would take a lot of people to come back to us, right? Because it would take us a long time to use it. So finding that good mix, making it really clear, you sampled this and now you're going to buy this, and making sure the experience of a sample is a good one.
Thank you. That is so good, Erica. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
I could talk to you forever. This is so fun. Thank you so much.
That wraps up today's episode of Scaling Emerging Beauty. A huge thank you to Erica for sharing her insights on scaling this mission-driven beauty brand, Ethique Beauty. The rebranding information, the talk about partnerships, and also that last point about sampling being a critical part of your program. So good, so good. And if you thought that this was helpful, I want to encourage you to please share the episode with a friend or a colleague. And if you're still listening, gosh, thank you for being here. You didn't have to listen to the end. If you don't mind, I'd love to ask that you would consider leaving a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't, subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss the next episode. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.